There's a hidden cost to always seeking peace. It's a psychological trap where avoiding one small conflict actually guarantees you a future filled with it. We're talking about the fear of confrontation, a silent vulnerability that certain people can spot and exploit from a mile away. In this explainer, we're going to deconstruct how this fear is systematically used to gain and maintain control, and more importantly, how you can reclaim it. True peace is not the absence of conflict, but the mastery of your response to it. Now, this isn't just some nice-sounding platitude. It's a strategic principle. It's the core idea that's going to guide us as we break down the mechanics of control, because it reframes conflict. It's no longer a threat to be avoided, but a constant to be managed. See, mastery, not avoidance, is the path to real peace. So here's our roadmap. We'll start with the peace paradox, why that search for harmony so often leads to chaos. Then we'll get into the anatomy of the trap to really understand its true cost. We'll deconstruct the engine of control, that hidden feedback loop powering the whole system, and explore your brain's addiction to the very thing that traps you. From there, we pivot to the solution, the strategic re-anchor, which is a protocol to break the cycle. And we'll wrap up with the ultimate strategic advantage, the principle of stability. Okay, let's start with a fundamental contradiction, the peace paradox. It seems logical, right, that avoiding confrontation, being agreeable, prioritizing harmony should lead to a more peaceful life. But the opposite is true. When you consistently signal that you will do anything to avoid a disagreement, you don't create peace, you paint a target on your back. You basically become a predictable, low-cost source of compliance. The strategic error is broadcasting that your comfort is for sale, and the price is simply the threat of an argument. So the paradox is this: avoiding small, manageable conflicts today guarantees larger, more draining ones tomorrow. So let's move from the paradox to the painful reality of living inside this trap. What does it actually feel like? What is the real, tangible cost of habitual submission? This isn't just about losing an argument. It's a systematic erosion of your well-being, of your agency. And this isn't a one-time thing. It's a chronic state. The lived experience starts with this crippling, low-grade stress, as your nervous system is just constantly waiting for the next potential conflict. The state of high alert, it leads directly to constant decision paralysis, where even tiny choices become agonizing because you're trying to calculate their potential to cause friction. Over time, this breeds a really profound sense of helplessness, a belief that you have no real say in anything. And this all culminates in an immense cognitive load. You spend so much mental energy predicting and managing other people's reactions that your own emotional needs are always inevitably put last. And that's the source of this severe imbalance. Okay, so we understand the cost. Now let's get analytical and shift our focus to the mechanics. How does this machine actually work? What is the hidden engine driving this whole cycle of avoidance and control? To break free, you first have to deconstruct the feedback loop that keeps the trap running on autopilot. At the heart of it all is the avoidance-submission feedback loop. This is the engine. It's a self-reinforcing cycle where your deep-seated avoidance of conflict leads you straight to submission, and the act of submission then reinforces your desire to avoid conflict in the future. It's a perfect closed system that just gets stronger and more efficient every single time you use it. So let's see how it starts. The loop ignites with something called boundary collapse. This is the first critical moment. You're faced with a minor disagreement, and instead of holding your ground, you flinch. You hesitate. You apologize when you don't need to. You immediately look for an exit. Now, to a manipulator, this isn't politeness. It's what's called a high-value dominance signal. It's a flashing green light, an unconscious invitation that tells them you are a person who can be easily controlled. It's the very first domino to fall. And here is the precise biological moment it all happens. During a conflict, your body floods with stress hormones, mostly cortisol. You feel that jolt of anxiety, that knot in your stomach, that rush of heat. This is the moment of truth. If you allow that physiological spike to dictate your actions, if you let raw fear make the decision for you, that is the exact instant control shifts from you to them. You've basically outsourced your response to your most primal survival instinct. And what happens in the second after you submit? Well, you get a reward. And this is where the trap truly sets itself. We call it the anxiety compliance feedback loop. The instant you give in, that awful, high arousal anxiety, it just vanishes. It's an immediate, powerful sense of relief. And your brain, which is fundamentally wired to seek reward and avoid pain, learns a very simple lesson. Compliance equals relief. Submission stops the pain. So the next time you feel that spike of anxiety, what do you think your brain is going to scream for you to do? The exact same thing. You see, the trap doesn't just happen, it closes around you. The powerful, addictive relief you get from ending the anxiety makes the self-defeating behavior of submission feel like a victory in the moment. This is what turns obedience into a deeply ingrained habit. Your brain starts to crave that relief more than it values long-term stability, or self-respect, or control over your own life. This brings us to the deep psychology of why this trap is so incredibly effective and just so difficult to escape. We need to understand the powerful forces of reinforcement that are, in essence, making your own brain work against you. This isn't just a bad habit, it's a conditioned addiction to relief. The key psychological mechanism here is negative reinforcement. Now, this term can be a little confusing. Negative does not mean punishment. It means taking something away. In this case, the behavior, submission, is strengthened because it successfully removes an unpleasant stimulus, which is that sharp, acute anxiety of confrontation. Imagine your anxiety is a blaring alarm in your head. Submission is the button that instantly silences it. Your brain quickly learns that hitting that button is the fastest way to get peace, so it will compel you to hit it again, and again, and again. So let's be crystal clear about the trade-off you're making here, because it is a strategic miscalculation of epic proportions. The immediate reward? Instant, powerful relief from acute anxiety. In that moment, it feels safe. It feels like a win. But the long-term cost is catastrophic. Chronic stress, a profound sense of helplessness, and a total loss of control over your life's direction. You are trading your future sovereignty for just a few seconds of comfort in the present. It's the worst deal imaginable, but your anxious brain makes it every single time. But there's another layer to this, something even deeper than the fear of anxiety. What is the powerful psychological force that keeps you locked in this pattern? The thing that prevents you from even trying to be assertive in the first place? It's this: identity threat. For many of us, our identity is deeply intertwined with being seen as a good person, as kind, as easygoing, as helpful. The thought of being labeled as difficult or unkind or disruptive feels like a direct attack on who we are at our core. And this identity threat can be so powerful that the fear of social judgment becomes a stronger motivator than our own well-being. We would honestly rather suffer in silence than risk having someone think badly of us. So, we've analyzed the problem from every angle. The paradox, the cost, the engine, the psychology. Now we pivot to the solution. And this isn't about just being more confident. It's about implementing a clear, actionable protocol to systematically dismantle the feedback loop and reclaim control. Before any tactic, the process begins with a conscious, deliberate choice. You have to choose to endure the temporary fire of anxiety for the prize of long-term stability. You have to accept that breaking the cycle is going to feel uncomfortable at first. You must be willing to withstand that discomfort for a few moments without hitting the submission button. This choice, right here, is the foundation for everything that follows. Here is the protocol itself. 3 tactical steps. First, when you feel that anxiety spike, you perform a cognitive reappraisal. Instead of thinking conflict is danger, you consciously reframe it. Conflict is information. This person is simply giving me information about what they want. This immediately lowers the emotional stakes. Second, and this is the most critical step, you deploy the time barrier. You create space with a simple, neutral phrase. Let me think about that, or I need 10 minutes to process this. Third, when you do respond, you use a neutral boundary script. You state your position calmly, factually, and without those low status signals like apologizing or over-explaining. The strategic genius of the time barrier is how it completely neutralizes an exploiter's main leverage point. Their power comes from knowing you're desperate to end the discomfort, that you will pay almost any price just to stop the anxiety. While the time barrier removes that leverage completely. By pausing, you're signaling that you will not make a decision based on fear. You break their script. You take back control of the timeline, and with it, the entire interaction. This leads us to our final and most important section. After understanding the mechanics and the tactics, what is the single powerful principle we can distill from all of this? What is your ultimate strategic advantage in any human interaction? The core strategic insight is this: volatility is vulnerability. An emotionally reactive person is a predictable person. If someone knows they can push a button and get a guaranteed emotional reaction from you, whether it's fear, anxiety, or anger, they own you. Your emotional volatility is the handle they use to control you. So the opposite must be true. Emotional stability is the ultimate source of power. And so we come full circle, right back to our opening quote, which now holds a much deeper, more tactical meaning. True peace is not the absence of conflict, because conflict is inevitable. It's just information. True peace is the mastery of your response to it, mastery over that cortisol spike, mastery over the impulse to submit, mastery over your own internal state. That is where real, lasting stability and control are found. So if you carry one idea from this explainer, let it be these 3 words. Stability is power. Your ability to remain calm, centered, and deliberate in the face of pressure is your greatest asset. It makes you unpredictable to manipulators and a reliable anchor for everyone else. Stability isn't passive. It is the ultimate expression of control. It is power.